Hey everyone, you may notice first and foremost I have a little less hair than the last time you saw me. It's quarantine time, I couldn't get a haircut and I desperately needed one, and this seemed like the easiest solution, so I'm going to roll with it. Today I have a quick little shop fix, I hope it'll be quick. I have to fix my table saw. The gear that drives the blade height adjustment is completely broken. I have to go in and support the motor from the bottom. It's terrible, it's probably not very safe, it's annoying, it's just the worst. So I ordered a new gear. It's just this little guy that I believe is the problem. We're going to take apart the table saw a little bit and see if we can fix it. Who knows? It feels really weird to have this thing up on the workbench. It just all feels a bit wrong, but we're gonna start opening it up and see what I can figure out. I don't know much about its internal mechanisms, but I think an important part of owning tools or using tools is having some idea of how they work and how they can be repaired. So we're gonna give it a shot. Now it's really tough to get a good angle, and I've tried to light it up a little bit here. The gear that is the problem is, as I cast the whole thing into shadow, it's not that first spiral piece you see right here, but it's the gear that links up to. And you can't really tell, but several of the teeth on it are broken. I think the issue was it got gummed up with sawdust, and that just caused too much tension on the individual teeth, and it's made of pretty cheap metal, so it fell apart. And then I'm also going to go ahead and replace this control rod that turns the whole thing, and you can see it's not even actioning the gear. It's just twisting this, and then it gets stuck after about half a turn because there's so much sawdust in there. So part of the long-term solution here is going to be a dust collection system, which I've talked about a lot. And so I think probably after this month or so, hopefully things start running a little bit more smoothly, and if not, I may just suck it up and try to order some stuff online. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm going to see if I can get this out without causing any problems, and go from there. My ultimate goal is to do this without having to take the motor or any of the major components off. Don't know if that'll be possible. I'm gonna make an effort. I went ahead and took the blade off to see if that would help me see what was going on here. I don't think it did, but either way, having the blade off is not a bad measure as far as safety goes. Because I wanted to see if this nut, or this bolt rather, was screwed into a nut somewhere that I couldn't see behind the blade. And it was just spinning. Yep, and it turns out that is the case. So taking off the blade did help. So now it's just the extremely awkward measure of somehow locking that in place from this angle, while also taking this bolt off from this angle, which just seems like, why did they do this? I know conceivably I could take the entire table of the saw off, but I'd really rather avoid that if at all possible. So this may be a two-man job, but we will see. Okay, so that took way more work than I'm willing to admit, but you can see this is the offending piece, and you can tell the sawdust got really gunked up in between all of the cogs or the teeth on this gear, and you can see these two right here just got completely shorn off, which is pretty impressive actually. So hopefully replacing this and just being more meticulous about making sure we're keeping the sawdust out of this thing will be the ticket. It doesn't help that the dust collection shroud on this is really not that good, and it just leaves a lot of airspace for dust to get around, but obviously the fact that we're not applying a vacuum to it doesn't help. So replace this, and hopefully we're back in business. I cleaned it up just a little bit to give you an idea of the contrast we're dealing with. They're just not there anymore at all, and even just cleaning out the sawdust, I could tell that stuff was the tiny little particles that were really dense and just wedged together. It was almost like MDF had formed between all the gears. So it's in pretty rough shape. So the tricky thing now is going to be making sure I seat the replacement for this guy correctly so it all works together. Now I'm also seeing that the threaded screw that feeds into this gear is pretty clogged up as well. So I'm going to make sure I clean that out before I replace it, just so I don't end up in exactly the same situation in another couple of weeks. Alright, so I have cleaned and oiled this turn screw here, and then you can see that hole is where the thread for the gear that I'm replacing goes. I've cleaned off this whole ratchet bar. I don't know what this is actually called, but ratchet bar sounds good. And now I'm going to attempt to reattach it and cross my fingers so that everything works smoothly again. I'm not filming the parts of me inside, because I only have 2 hands, and I can't do it while also filming at a half-decent angle, and I don't feel like you'd want to see my hands inside of a plastic box for half an hour, so we're just gonna skip some stuff. Now it's a little hard to tell because I haven't put the blade back on yet, but that turns pretty smoothly. And the reason it's in kind of stutters like that is because I am using not a knob to turn it right now. The next task is one more small replacement part. So you can see this right here is the bar that is where the handle for the blade adjustment goes. You can see I can spin it now, which I couldn't before. It's still a little sticky, but I'll oil it more. The handle that I have for it, the knob that I have for it rather, is completely stripped out where it attaches at the bottom. Plus the sort of pins that hold it are essentially gone on this. So I got a replacement one of these, as seen right here. Ta-da. I believe all I have to do is take out this little pin right here, and then I should be able to replace the whole thing. Hopefully. Managed to get the old piece off. You can see these pins at the top are just, this used to be a straight piece of metal that was about that much longer. And the scrape marks are all made. That's from when I was using a vice grip to extricate this, or to use it rotationally before. You can see yet again all that nice greasy sawdust. Time to get the replacement for this on, which hopefully won't be too bad. And then I'm going to try to reuse one of these, because for a couple pieces of plastic it was like $25, and I'm not about to pay that. So you can see where it's all stripped out in here. I've got a couple ideas on how I might be able to fix that. Idea one is once I get the new handle on, I'm just going to put a gob of epoxy on it, plonk it on. The disadvantage to that is it'll make it really hard to remove if I ever need to, but I don't really see that happening. So, there you go. Alright, so I got the new axle installed. I did have to make a new pin down here because the old one just was too bent to use. But that was not a particularly big deal. Just use a little piece of metal I had lying around. And again, for comparison, that was the top of the old one. Rough shape. Oh, I actually did forget this little, there's a name for these. It's essentially a washer that you clip on so it helps hold everything in place. Let me get that on real quick. There's a little groove in there, and then the little clips on this just sit right in there, and that helps lock it in place. Alright, now to get some epoxy on the handle. For those who don't know, epoxy or epoxy resin is a 2-part adhesive. It's really good for joining. It's on there really good. It's really good for joining together wood and metal, or metal and metal, or a lot of other bits and bobs. Plastic. When it seals, it forms a fairly dense, when it cures, it forms a fairly dense solid. You might see it a lot in people make the kind of waterfall tables and that sort of thing. And it's pretty simple to use. It also smells like death, so definitely be wearing a mask. It's really not good to breathe in this stuff while it's still wet. But what you do is you get an equal amount of each part. It's usually a resin and a hardener. And then when you mix this together, that's when the chemical reaction goes off, and it can get pretty hot. That creates the adhesive. That'll cure up over about 5 or 10 minutes. That's why they call it 5-minute epoxy. So I'm just gonna pretty much go to town. So essentially all I'm gonna do is chunk this right on there. I don't want too much to get on the threads of this screw because I do want that screw to be removable. And then just to help hold everything tight, I'll put the screw back on. I'm not going to tighten this all the way yet, just in case there is some epoxy involved, because I'll never be able to get it off again. That'll help hold everything where I want it. Alright, I'm going to let that sit for a little while, and then I'll come back, and hopefully this thing will be just about done. My dad is being a sweet angel and helping me put the saw back on its platform. Everyone say thank you to Dad. It's been here for about 6 seconds, already making fun of me. Let's see how the adjustment knob feels. Oh, like butter. Smooth like silk. It's a little rougher going up, but that's the way it's always been. And it's certainly better than having to stand under or crawl underneath it and hold the motor mount up while you're turning a spindle. So yeah, that's an improvement. It cost about $15, so not bad. So before I reattach the blade, I figured I would at least try to give it a new lease on life. This blade's relatively dull. It's cut through its fair share of nails, and I'm gonna get new ones soon. But I did just clean it up on the outside, degunked it a little bit, made sure the tips of the blades were all clear. And you can see it's a pretty marked difference. It's not perfect, and I didn't do a super finicky job of it. But it looks like a proper saw blade. To do that, I just got an aluminum tray, put in enough water so this was submerged a little bit, and then put in about maybe a half a cup or a cup of laundry detergent. And that worked pretty much perfectly. And I just went over it with a wire brush to get rid of everything. It's also a good way of getting the screen printing off of this if you don't like that on your saw blades. So. And the way you do this, if you don't know, you have 2 wrenches. One goes on the arbor, which is the sort of axle upon which the blade spins, and then the other one you use to tighten the nut that I just put on there. Now, what I ended up doing before, because I couldn't get the arbor to spin the way I wanted, and because the arbor on this is not actually hexagonal, it's round, it's got 2 slots, and the result is this wrench slips on it a lot. And you really don't want to mess around. You want to get this on pretty tight because obviously it's a spinning blade of death that will kill you if it is given the opportunity. It will try to take the opportunity if it is not given. And definitely make sure the saw's unplugged while you're doing this. Mine it still is, for sure. Feel pretty good about that. So let's go ahead and test it out. The blade height adjusts nice and easily, just like it should, which is much better than what I was doing before. Should have done this a while ago. Let's go ahead and give it a test cut, see how we like how that's going. You know what helped? Plugging it in, because I was safe and didn't plug it in before. Really good, and it left a much cleaner finish on the end than it has in a while, so cleaning the blade definitely was a key part of this too. Excellent. So now I have a slightly better working table saw that I can adjust easily, which is amazing. Sweet. All that work because I broke this little piece. But I think at the end of the day it taught me a lot about how my table saw works and how it's put together, and also left me with a better working saw, which is both safer and easier for everyone involved. So that's really good. The next few weeks, I'm planning on focusing a lot on kind of shop improvement projects, things that make my tools work better, things that make the environment work better for me. The weather's getting a little bit better, and I want to be able to spend more time out here, which is nice because right now it's cold and I don't want to be out here for many, many hours. The more I can do to sort of improve my shop and build jigs and all sorts of things that help me make more precise features in the long run, I think will be really worthwhile, and they'll let me make cooler and cooler stuff as time progresses. So I'm excited to get going on those. I'm also thinking by the end of the month, assuming I haven't lost my job or anything catastrophic has happened, I plan on getting a dust collection system in here. It'll probably be pretty simple, just a cheap Harbor Freight one that I mount somewhere, and have just a couple drops coming off of it that I can adjust as I need to. This is not a permanent shop solution for me. I'm planning on moving out, hopefully by next year, or at least next summer, and that'll give me the opportunity to do everything just so. But I want to get things to a point here where for the next several months I can produce the very best that I can. So, if you like this one, I hope you do. Stick around, subscribe, comment, tell me what you want to see more of, tell me what you want to see less of. If it's more of my hair, sorry, that's not going to happen for a while. So thank you again for watching this video and all my others. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and watch some of my other ones and keep an eye out. I'm going to try to put out one main video a week and a couple small ones like this as time goes on. If you like this one, stick around for the next one and we'll make, or maybe fix, some more stuff. Have a good one.